Last week, OpenAI released a new feature called structured outputs, and in short, it enables you to define the data structure that you get back from the ChatGPT API, which means suddenly it's really easy to programmatically use that response in an application. Let's take a fast look at how you can use this capability in a Retool app. You'll need to configure an OpenAI resource, so you're going to need an API key. And also, be a good citizen. Ask your admin to store the key in a config variable if you are using a shared system. Let's create an app where the user can ask about a company and get a predetermined set of information in return. We'll create a form and add an event handler to fire off a ChatGPT API call. The API call will post some JSON to the chat completions endpoint, and we'll need a model, some messages, and a response format. Let's take a quick look at the input formats first. The messages parameter is an array of messages, and each has a role and a content field. You use the system role to give ChatGPT context and the overall style that you want ChatGPT to respond with. And the user role contains the question that you're putting to ChatGPT. A format that has been working well for me with the structured outputs is to have a message for the question and a message for each field in the response. That response format conforms to the JSON schema format. Most of these are just mandatory fields. What's most interesting is the properties object, which contains the schema definition. A response schema could theoretically have quite a complex structure, but I have to say my instinct is to restrict yourself to a format like this: strings, numbers, flat arrays, and maybe enumerated fields, which can have a set of permitted values. And note that you also need to list all of these properties as required. We need to combine our user input with the choice of model and output structure into the messages and response format parameters. So I'm going to use variables for the model and also for the pure data schema. And then I'm going to use the transformer to take that user input and the data schema and create the array of messages, and also to create the full JSON schema object that we're going to pass into the response format parameter. So we take all of these values and plug them into the API call, and we test the result. And while the output is correct, it's also a string. So we add a transformer to the output of the query that passes the string and returns the format as we requested in the form of a JSON object. On the application canvas, let's simply use a key value component to display the result. We need to format the number because of the 1000 separator that we don't need for a year. And it's not obvious from the response that the industry field is an enumerated value. I think that is something you might sometimes want to highlight. So let's manually set that to be a tag. And we're done. So a top tip, just following on what we've built here, using the transformers, instead of hard coding everything into the API parameters, which is what we might be tempted to do, it makes it easy from here to experiment with different schema, with different field values, maybe even expose control of the format to the end user. By using the schema in the form of an array, we could easily create an options list, for instance, for a select drop-down or something like that. I hope that was a useful video. I'll include a link to the application for download in the description below if you'd like to take a look at the code itself. Thank you for watching.
3, 2, 1.